Storm Alley could sneak up on UK residents. Hurricane Helene has been causing weather havoc this week, with soaring temperatures accompanying heavy winds of over 50 miles per hour, but Storm Alley's winds could vastly exceed that of Helene's, potentially seeing speeds of up to 75 miles per hour. Amber severe weather warnings were issued for the north of England, Scotland and Northern Ireland ahead of Storm Alley's arrival on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Florence gone, but it's flooding a crisis in parts of North Carolina. Live updates. At least 33 people have died in storm-related incidents, 25 in North Carolina, 6 in South Carolina and 1 in Virginia. 343,000 people are still without power in North Carolina. As of 5 a.m. Tuesday, Florence was a post-tropical cyclone. It was located about 105 miles west-northwest of New York City with maximum sustained winds of 25 miles per hour, the National Hurricane Center said. The Cape Fear River is set to crest at 62 feet Tuesday. Nearly 36 inches of rain has fallen over Elizabethtown, North Carolina, CBS Raleigh affiliate WNCN-TV reports. Other towns have seen roughly 30 inches since Thursday. West Virginia got a reprieve when predictions of possible devastation didn't come to fruition from the remnants of Hurricane Florence. Before the storm made landfall last week, forecasters said it could result in life-threatening, catastrophic flooding rainfall across the mountains of western North Carolina, western Virginia and eastern West Virginia. Instead, the storm brought 1 to 2 inches of rain in much of West Virginia before moving out early Tuesday. The state is still recovering from June 2016 floods that killed 23 people statewide. The Greenbrier County community of Rainelle had braced for the worst from Florence, even moving its fleet of trucks to higher ground in anticipation of the storm. Storm Alley could sneak up on UK residents. Hurricane Helene has been causing weather havoc this week, with soaring temperatures accompanying heavy winds of over 50 miles per hour, but Storm Alley's winds could vastly exceed that of Helene's, potentially seeing speeds of up to 75 miles per hour. Amber severe weather warnings were issued for the north of England, Scotland and Northern Ireland ahead of his arrival on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Florence gone, but it's flooding a crisis in parts of North Carolina. Live updates. At least 33 people have died in storm-related incidents, 25 in North Carolina, 6 in South Carolina and 1 in Virginia. 343,000 people are still without power in North Carolina. As of 5 a.m. Tuesday, Florence was a post-tropical cyclone. It was located about 105 miles west-northwest of New York City with maximum sustained winds of 25 miles per hour, the National Hurricane Center said. The Cape Fear event is set to crest at 62 feet Tuesday. Nearly 36 inches of rain has fallen over Elizabethtown, North Carolina, CBS Raleigh affiliate WNCN-TV reports. Other towns have seen roughly 30 inches since Thursday. West Virginia got a reprieve when predictions of possible devastation didn't come to fruition from the remnants of Hurricane Florence. Before the storm made landfall last week, forecasters said it could result in life-threatening, catastrophic flooding rainfall across the mountains of western North Carolina, western Virginia and eastern West Virginia. Instead, the storm brought 1 to 2 inches of rain in much of West Virginia before moving out early Tuesday. The state is still recovering from June 2016 floods that killed 23 people statewide. The Greenbrier County community of Raynell had braced for the worst from Florence, even moving its fleet of trucks to higher ground in anticipation of the storm.
Storm Florence, residents warned not to return home. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper has urged residents to remain in shelters as the floodwaters from Storm Florence continue to rise across the state. "I know it was hard to leave home and it's even harder to wait," he said on Tuesday. Moody's Analytics says Florence could cost as much as $22 billion, mostly from property damage. Governor Cooper added that for many residents the storm and its aftermath feel like a nightmare that just won't end. An estimated 10,000 people are being housed in shelters across North Carolina and about 314,000 are without power. At least 1.7 million chickens have also drowned due to Florence's floodwaters as of Tuesday, according to one of the nation's biggest poultry companies, Sanderson Farms. Storm Alley is set to unleash gale force winds and heavy rain across the UK tomorrow as warnings are issued for parts of the country where are yellow and amber weather warnings in place. Storm Alley is set to bring severe gales and heavy rain to other parts of the UK. Storm Alley will bring very strong winds to Northern Ireland, Scotland, northern England and parts of North Wales tomorrow. The storm will bring very strong winds to Northern Ireland, Scotland, northern England and parts of North Wales on Wednesday. Chief forecaster Laura Patterson said, Storm Ali is expected to bring a spell of very strong winds to northern parts of the UK through Wednesday, particularly Northern Ireland, central and southern Scotland and the far northwest of England. As this is the first spell of very strong winds of the season, and given that most trees are still in full leaf, we are likely to see some dangerous conditions with falling trees and flying branches and other debris likely. Strong winds will be accompanied by heavy, squally showers. Temperatures still above average in London. Temperatures remain above average for this time of year with 24°C possible in London on Tuesday after the mercury hit 26°C in the capital on Monday. Scotland to bear the brunt of Storm Ali. Met Office spokesman Graham Madge said, the whole of Scotland is affected to a greater or lesser extent. The amber warning covers central Scotland and up the east coast as far as Aberdeen, southern Scotland and up the west coast as far as Oban. It's going to be particularly windy and the impact we would expect would be flying debris, and with trees still in full leaf they are more vulnerable to toppling. Given the direction the winds are coming from west and north-facing coasts could be subject to large waves and there is potential for disruption to transport. Storm Ali is officially the first named storm of the season. Storm Helene, which started as a hurricane, was named by the U.S. National Hurricane Center and not the Met Office, so does not officially count as part of the UK named storm season despite making it to Britain and Ireland. The full list of storm names for 2018-2019 is Ali, Brona, Callum, Deirdre, Eric, Freya, Gareth, Hannah, Idris, Jane, Kevin, Lily, Max, Lee, Oliver, Peggy, Ross, Sis, Tristan, Violet, and Will. The names have been chosen from a list of ideas submitted by the public, as part of the Met Office's Name Our Storms scheme which aims to raise awareness of severe weather. 11 hours ago. Pictures show Londoners braving the wind this morning. 12 hours ago. Storm Ali to hit tomorrow. The Met Office has just announced that a separate weather front forecast to hit Scotland and Northern Ireland tomorrow has been named Storm Ali. The storm is due to bring heavy rains and more winds of up to 80 miles per hour. The Met Office has issued a warning for Scotland and northern England on Wednesday with a fresh weather front set to bring fierce winds. The warnings which were issued for Tuesday were dropped after the winds eased. Meteorologist Dean Hall said parts of the UK have already felt gusts of about 30 to 40 miles per hour, with wind speeds reaching 50 miles per hour in parts of Wales. We've got rain currently across Scotland, northern England, eastern parts of Northern Ireland, associated with what was Storm Helene, Mr. Hall said. Wednesday could see winds of 60 to 70 miles per hour, the forecaster said, adding, certainly we could see close to 80 miles per hour, possibly even higher miles per hour in exposed areas in the far north of the country.
could have seen Lincoln, Texas, 5 miles an hour. It was right on the north side as that wall came through. The eye wall came through. Yeah, that house did. That's a total loss. Yeah, we haven't seen a ton. I wonder if we're starting to get into that area that was impacted by the highest. Because you're seeing there's a couple of that house. Sometimes it has to be houses are built so sturdy and so well and up to the newest standards. But if you have an older house on a beach that was one of the first beach houses in that area, sometimes it just I can't imagine sitting home right now at a house and the topsoil up every year.
Underneath the house, you can see it, and you see the roof, and then it's gone.
Oh yeah, the blue one right there. I bet there was a deck that they could sit out on, and the deck is gone.
Yeah, that's
So it's just hanging there. Those 3 houses in that area. Now we're in Surf City. Down in Surf City.
okay.
And Surf City, between 20 and 25 inches, there's North Shore Drive. Look, this is kind of cool technology. So our helicopter actually has an extra computer on board that can detect where it is GPS-wise, and it can actually display roads anywhere it flies. So it bounces a little bit because, that's a nice stable feature, but the helicopter is actually bouncing. It's just we have gyroscopes on the camera to help hold it steady, and that's why we don't see it bouncing all over. Sometimes the computer goes with the bounce, though, so there on the bottom part where you see North Shore Drive, it's not a rock solid as that picture. That's because the gyroscope doesn't really help the computer decide. It's coming up on Newburgh Avenue there, North Shore Drive. And notice the shadows. There's some change. The house is showing a shadow.
I remember yesterday we were talking about hanging out in Robinson County. We were talking about that when we were on the Steve Stewart. And he said, well, that's not necessarily a good thing because that makes the atmosphere more unstable.
Yes.
And sure enough, not long after that, we started getting tornado warnings for Robinson County.
Yes. Now the difference today is we're seeing more of the unstable air move to the north as the system moves away. There's North Topsail Drive, Wilmington Avenue, North Shore Drive there. It's Copper 11. Street spotter circles around. It's the first picture from that area. Now, unlike Julie, who was able to drive around yesterday, we can't fly to all the neighborhoods. It's Chapter 11, so as much as if you start requesting, can you fly over to this or that, we can't really pass that along to the chopper. We're kind of at the mercy of what their flight pattern is. But they're on New River Drive now on the west side of the beach in Surf City. You can see some of those houses too. It looks like on some of the modern houses, the thing that amazes me are the storm shutters. Like in the olden days, or even today, still you'll see 6x8 breast pointed covered windows, protect the windows, and they'll screw that in. And some of those storm shutters are made to go through a lot higher wind than that. Now we're coming up on one of the piers in Surf City that extends out into the ocean. They're at South Shore Drive, South River Drive, just down from the water tower there at High Point Avenue, Raleigh Avenue. One of the piers going out into the ocean.
Last night, as we continue to look at these pictures, the mayor of Surf City put out this message. He said that the town staff is still in the process of performing damage assessments. We understand the urgency for aerial footage. However, at this time, all drone operations are on hold due to helicopter water rescues. This was last night in Surf City. The mayor said that this is Mayor Doug Medlin. He said contractors have had a very successful day starting to clear roadways and repair utilities.
And you just saw it fly over Surf City Pier. Chopper 11 is going to circle back a little bit. Just curious how that fared. We saw some of the piers yesterday in Atlantic Beach. One of the piers, the giant pylons have worked their way in and become a problem. You can see them laying. Julie Wilson was standing there with the fire chief, and it was just huge. But that pier actually now.
There's a part at the end that I understand from our producer that is missing.
Oh, okay.
That pier, which happened at the pier yesterday in Atlantic Beach as well, and debris was about.
Oh, there's usually an octagon there at the end that people fish off, but that's the part that's gone. Yes, now you see it from the top of the stick. But yeah, you can see it just falls off into the ocean. I'm amazed that pier did as well as it did. It extends into the water.
Getting our first views of Surf City from the air. Since you said 130 mile per hour winds with Florence on.
Yeah, we had some reports as that approached. Cat 2 gusts going to 16, which was 100 right around Category 2 approach. Thank goodness they weren't sustained. Worse. But even the fire chief yesterday in Atlantic said they estimated their wind gusts between 25 and 30.
Surf City is a town in Pender and Onslow counties, and the population was about 1,850, and it's located on Topsail Island.
Rest of them here better than
The schools whole week closed because this is sample of the damage there.
So my guess is where that black area is, that berm, that extra sand came clear out past that black area, and the water just pounding on there really eroded it away.
All right, so pretty interesting stuff.
Right.
Chocolate on Beach League.
Indeed. Okay, we're going to go to Julie Wilson now. Okay, she's got some video of a school bus that went through some water or tried to make a decision about whether to go through a flooded area. Julie.
Is that the bus?
What's going on there?
Yeah, hey, John and Barbara. Well, as you can see, there's a school bus sitting right here. We're told this is part of Durham Public Schools. In fact, that's what it says there, right below North Carolina Public Schools. Got to give props to the school bus driver who saw Mud Creek right down here. Jeff, if you want to zoom in on what that looks like here on Pickett Road, and opted to not cross, smart decision, turned around and got stuck here just into someone's kind of ditch. Some folks out here have been watching this happen since I think she's been out here maybe about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. I was told that no one was hurt, but official on that bus there kind of didn't want to say much more. She kind of shooed me away when I asked if the school bus driver was turning around just to kind of confirm things, and that is pretty evident that that's what's happening. You can see the mud there flipped up on the back of the school bus. So I've tweeted out this photo. That's out right now. I am told that the kids are safe. Right now, it looks like they're just waiting on a tow truck to get this bus out of here. It flows in this direction and in the opposite direction, not just because there's a bus here, but because that water is very dangerous to cross just looking at it. That does not look good, that water there. So this bus driver here making a very smart decision for her kids on board of this bus here with Durham Public Schools. Now the wait begins to get this bus up and out of this big
That is not the bus that we showed you earlier that a viewer shot on home video.
That one is
Holding
dark. But we do have one, and this is from Hurrincane too, that the viewer's saying we're going to try to get that video up for you to show you that there was, and I don't know what the situation was, but this was this morning, and this is just a really quick video, but you're seeing this Orange County school bus driving through a significant amount of rain on that road. It looks like they're in the neighborhood, so, wow.
Are you going round?
Yeah. Wow.
County Old NC 10. All
We're
right.
going to Anthony Wilson now.
Anthony had been trying to get to Polk County, but he had some difficulty because he ran into some flooded roads in the Hope Mills area. Anthony, are you with us now?
Coming down a nice placid path. This is the water race. My camera's full of moisture. This is unbelievable. This is utterly unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this. It's like something from... This is usually just a classic water race. You don't even see it come over into the overflow, and look at it. Look at it.
This is not the first time that this area is flooded. She's urging people, as we've been saying for the past few days, to stay off the road unless you are essential personnel. And certainly when you see a situation like this, you have to report it, because look on the other side where there's a truck, wires been turning around, that truck either provide ground clearance.
Well, it's not working very well, but
City hit the road, and all you can do is get stuck on this road with that water rushing by, and you got
3 hours ago this wasn't here.
past few days.
We're below the level of the river here.
This is what I mean. You shouldn't go below the level of the river.
There's the wall holding it
There's
back.
a pipe there.
Oh my god.
I'm glad I'm not recycling today.
This
Skate park's flooded.
what you're seeing here now. That is, as she confirmed, one of the utility lines for the town of Florence.
All the water's coming up out of the drains. Oh, I must be driving through 6 to 12 inches of water here.
Obviously, you don't want to get hurt or killed. And a lot of people have been out here using their smartphones and taking pictures. Being sightseeing. You see some of the cars here. I think some of
This is Farmer's Brewery. They're drowning. Oh my god, that's actually come up over the path. There is now no longer a path. The path is part of the river. And looks like it won't be long until my car is part of the river. So, yeah. Yeah, because this is now flowing backwards, so I don't know if you can see that. The current is coming uphill now.
Seems not still quick coming down. Ah, canal boat! I'm so scared. Don't worry, we're fine. That's halfway up. Oh,
That's alright.
I'm so glad I'm in this car.
Storm Alley could sneak up on UK residents. Hurricane Helene
Oh my
has
God,
been
look at this.
causing weather havoc this week, with soaring temperatures accompanying heavy winds of over 50 miles per hour. But Storm Alley's winds could vastly exceed that of Helene's, potentially seeing speeds of up to 75 miles per hour. Amber severe weather warnings were issued for the north of England, Scotland and Northern Ireland ahead of Storm Alley's arrival on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Florence gone, but it's flooding the crisis in parts of North Carolina. Live updates. At least 33 people have died in storm-related incidents, 25 in North Carolina, 6 in South Carolina and 1 in Virginia. 343,000 people are still without power in North Carolina. As of 5 a.m. Tuesday, Florence was a post-tropical cyclone. It was located about 105 miles west-northwest of New York City with maximum sustained winds of 25 miles per hour, the National Hurricane Center said. The Cape Fear River is set to crest at 62 feet Tuesday. Nearly 36 inches of rain has fallen over Elizabethtown, North Carolina, CBS Raleigh affiliate WNCN-TV reports. Other towns have seen roughly 30 inches since Thursday. West Virginia got a reprieve when predictions of possible devastation didn't come to fruition from the remnants of Hurricane Florence. Before the storm made landfall last week, forecasters said it could result in life-threatening, catastrophic flooding rainfall across the mountains of western North Carolina, western Virginia and eastern West Virginia. Instead, the storm brought 1 to 2 inches of rain in much of West Virginia before moving out early Tuesday. The state is still recovering from June 2016 floods that killed 23 people statewide. The Greenbrier County community of Rainelle had braced for the worst from Florence, even moving its fleet of trucks to higher ground in anticipation of the storm.
of Wilmington from the rest of North Carolina. Wilmington's rainfall total for the year is higher than it's been for more than a century. Officials are planning to fly in supplies of food and water. The roads in and out are blocked, no matter where you try to go. David Begnaud is in Castle Hayne, just outside of Wilmington, because he can't get in. David, good morning.
Hey, John, good morning. We are standing on Interstate 40. Wilmington is in front of me, and behind me is the rest of the world. We are essentially cut off. Look, here's the deal. Wilmington has gotten up to 2 feet of rain because of Florence. Creeks and rivers have swollen, and roadways have been washed away. Within the last 24 hours, we went to the community of Bishop, and near the Stony Creek neighborhood, we saw rescuers with FEMA evacuating families and pets from a subdivision where homes have water nearly up to the rooftops. From there, we noticed a lot of people trying to drive through floodwater, including a man named William. He was actually hauling in disaster relief equipment. He drove in yesterday morning in the floodwater and was there for more than 8 hours. When we found him, he said, listen, I don't have cell phone service. Will you call my wife and let her know I'm okay? We did, but we also called 911 to let them know his location. Here's what we just found out this morning. Right now, the city of Wilmington, first thinking they would have to fly in supplies, has found out they can drive them in. So here's what they're going to do. They're going to today figure out a way to drive in enough food to feed 60,000 people for 4 days. Right now, they are planning where they can drop them off because initially the places they had are cut off by floodwater. So again, they have 18-wheelers, high-level trucks that they're going to drive in today. We don't know what time it's going to happen, but enough food for 60,000 people is on the way. Back to you.
A reminder about how dire the situation is. David, thank you so much.
Areas devastated by Hurricane Florence face a major new threat today amid rising water levels. Severe flooding is reported all over the Carolinas, and rain is still falling in some places. A major isolated, and the flood risk extends 250 miles from the coast.
Florence has killed at least 17 people. Some areas have received more than 30 inches of rain since Thursday. North Carolina officials report more than 900 water rescues across the state. Think about that. This morning, flood watches and warnings stretch all the way to Pennsylvania, where the remains of Florence are headed. These pictures from Fayetteville show how difficult it is to move around. DeMarco Morgan is 40 miles south in Pembroke, North Carolina. The rescuers have been working nonstop for days. DeMarco, good morning.
Good morning to you. Pembroke is just one of the many communities that authorities have spent the past couple of days searching for residents stranded by floodwaters. And the rain has stopped, at least for now. But now authorities are keeping a close eye on levees and rivers that are now under pressure.
All eyes are on Lumberton, North Carolina this morning, where the rising Lumber River threatens to worsen flooding. Relentless rain from Florence caused the river to swell, rising overnight to more than 24 feet in an already inundated city. Emergency officials and volunteers have been working around the clock to keep the river at bay. As Florence raged Friday, they frantically sandbagged a section of the city where floodwaters from Hurricane Matthew had rushed in 2 years ago.
As you can see, the sandbags did not work. This is the Lumber River, which is headed toward town, as it did during Hurricane Matthew.
With water levels on the rise, the priority is getting people out. The so-called Cajun Navy, a volunteer rescue team from Louisiana, helped evacuate dozens stranded in a nursing facility in Lumberton.
Goddamn.
A few miles away in Pembroke, firefighters raced Sunday to rescue people trapped in homes surrounded by water ahead of more rain.
It's a lot of flooding.
Jessica Locklear and her 2 young children were rescued as floodwaters started creeping into their home.
I can't swim and I don't want my babies to drown.
The firefighters are joined by local volunteers struggling through treacherous conditions.
You try to get out there with a small boat, you're putting your life and the other person's life in danger.
To the north, parts of downtown Fayetteville are underwater and could be even more submerged when the Cape Fear River is expected to crest later this week.
Now that Florence has left the region, officials are trying to rebuild or repair infrastructure. Everything from power lines to roads to dams. It's a big job. The North Carolina Department of Transportation posted this drone footage of Interstate 40 near Pender County, declaring the highway impassable and unsafe to travel. Similar scenes are playing out in hundreds of other locations. On the phone now, Brigadier General Diana Holland with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers joins us. She is the commander of the South Atlantic Division, and she's joining us now from Raleigh, North Carolina. General, thanks so much for being with us. You have had a chance to assess the damage from this storm. What is most concerning to you?
Well, good evening, Helene. Thank you for having me on your program. Today I had the opportunity to fly by helicopter from Raleigh, North Carolina, and over to Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was really striking. The closer we got to the coast, the amount of flooding was just really noticeable. The water levels are very high, and of course, as your meteorologist just noted, they're going to continue to rise as the runoff works its way down the rivers.
And a number of dams we know are at or near capacity after the storm. Are there any specific ones that worry you the most?
The state is keeping an eye on that. In both North Carolina and South Carolina, the state is watching their dams very, very closely. We are standing by to assist them. If they have dams that they'd like us to help provide technical advice on, we do that. And we have done that to a handful. There was one dam in North Carolina a couple days ago, the Sanford Dam, that did fail. It's a private dam. It affected the local area, but we will, as the water continues to rise and then recede, we'll know more.
And what is the protocol? How do you deal with dams that may be close to failure?
Well, there's a number of steps we can take. The state can bring in sandbags. They can bring in, they can shore up the foot of the dam, the toe of the dam. They can do some controlled releases, they can do some controlled releases so that to relieve the pressure on the reservoir. So there's a number of things they can do. But the most important thing, obviously, for all of our infrastructure is to maintain it ahead of time and do all the technical assessments ahead of time. And both of these states have done that. So we all have a pretty good understanding of where their critical infrastructure is at.
What about when you look at some of the roadways here that have been flooded? Transportation is obviously an issue. We've been hearing from our reporters about how, for instance, in Wilmington, you're essentially cut off depending on how high the tide is. But when you have a road that's been flooded over, how do you know if it's even structurally sound and is able to sort of maintain the integrity to allow things like heavy trucks and equipment to roll into these affected areas?
Yeah, and that's a great question. The state police will shut the road down, and it's very important that everybody follow those instructions and give everyone time, give the experts the time to, when they open the road, get in there, check the structure, and make sure it's not compromised from underneath. All this water is causing erosion on the sides of the roads, and so you don't know what the integrity is underneath the surface. And so the states follow that protocol pretty well, and at times we help them out.
And I know, General, you said you had a chance to fly around and take a look from the air on your ride from Raleigh to the Wilmington area. Is there any sense at all, based on what you have seen, about how long it might take to recover from the aftermath of a storm like this?
It would be hard for me to estimate. We really have to see what happens once the water recedes and moves out to the ocean and really do the assessments then. It will be some time before we have a good idea of how long this is going to take. The other thing I should mention about the flyover is you could tell it was a big rain event and not as much a wind event. When we see large wind events, you see a lot of roof damage. It's very apparent from the air. And so we didn't see as much of that as we have in previous years after hurricanes. But again, the closer you get to the coast, in addition to the flooding, is where you start to see the trees toppled over and some damage to homes.
Still very much a lot of difficult work ahead. Brigadier General Diana Holland with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Helene. Have a good night.
You too.
We return now to the other major story of today, the impact of Hurricane Florence, whose death toll has now reached 21. In North Carolina, the rain kept coming today, threatening to cut off roads and bridges in towns, cities, and counties for days, maybe even weeks. William Brangham continues his reporting, focusing on the city that has been the hardest hit.
As we reported earlier, the city of Wilmington is largely cut off from the outside world. Waters have flooded nearly every entrance to the city, stranding most of the city's 120,000 people. Earlier this afternoon, I spoke with Wilmington's mayor, Bill Saffo, to get a sense of how things were going.
We are getting some supplies in here. We're airlifting some medical supplies, and we're airlifting some food supplies in here for the shelters. And we've got a truckload that was brought in here using trucks that could get through high water. We got 20 trucks in here and brought in some food and some water and some fuel into the area, which is desperately needed at this time. The roads coming into the city, into the county, are still impassable. We expect the river to crest tomorrow at about midday, and then after the river crests, we feel that we'll be able to access some routes into the city. But we still have to expect those roadways to assure they're stable and they're good to drive over. Power is being reestablished as we speak, but it is spotty in different areas of the city.
How many residents in Wilmington are still in the dark right now?
I would probably say 80%, let's just say 90% of the city is still without power. But we were slowly getting there. But our main priority, of course, was to establish power to the hospital, make sure the hospital had power, our police stations, fire stations had power, our emergency operations center had power. So those were our first priorities. And then from there is getting power to some of the grocery stores, making certain some of our commercial corridors have some power so we can get some grocery stores reopened. Obviously, we've got people that haven't been able to go to grocery store for over a week. And, of course, trying to get some fuel. Seems to be one of the main things that we currently need right now, because of people that have been running generators for quite some time, and they're running out of fuel.
Mayor, are there active rescues still going on in Wilmington?
I think the vast majority of people that needed to be rescued have been rescued. We're getting a lot of calls for medical calls currently, but we will still get the occasional rescue call to come out here and get me from my house. I think what you're going to see in the coming days is a significant amount of flooding in the surrounding areas. We know that each of our rivers that are coming into the Cape Fear, all of those rivers are going to experience record flood stages.
I know there's a curfew currently in Wilmington right now. What is your message to residents? What have you been telling them about hanging on?
The first thing we're telling is we had a lot of people that evacuated the area, heeded the warnings of the emergency management officials, and left the area. Obviously, we have a lot of those folks that want to come back to their homes, get back to the city, check on their property, and we're telling them, don't come until you've heard from us whether the roads are passable. There's no need to even try, because you're going to be turned away by the highway patrol. That's number one. Number two, we're telling our citizens, for the most part, stay on your property, stay at your home if possible. I know a lot of people are getting a little stir crazy at this point in time because they haven't been out and about for days. Please stay put until we can get these roadways cleared, debris, and it's safe for you to go out and walk around, because we've got a lot of power lines that are entangled with a lot of the debris in our neighborhoods. And what has happened is we're coming across some wires that are hot, and we don't want anybody to get hurt or electrocuted. What we have found historically is that we lose a lot of life during hurricanes after the event passes. And so I caution folks that when you're getting out in the community or getting out in your neighborhood, be very cautious of down power lines, be very cautious of down trees, because there may be a power line that is entangled within it that you may not be able to see. So we want to lift the curfew as soon as possible, but we also don't want to do it and jeopardize somebody's safety. So we've got it in place again this evening. And then it's just, a slow grind getting this thing cleaned up and getting electricity turned back on and getting, the staples of life back here. What has really hit us hard here is that the storm sat over us for 2 straight days and just dumped a tremendous amount of of water on us and rain.
All right, Bill Sappho, Mayor of Wilmington, North Carolina. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Storm Ali to hit UK and Ireland with 85 miles per hour winds. Well, Storm Ali is set to pummel much of the north and west tomorrow, bringing the threat of damaging 80.
Hello. The first spell of windy and disruptive weather of the autumn is upon us, as is the first named storm of the season too. Now, we've already had some pretty windy weather, all courtesy of ex-Hurricane Helene. You can see it here on the satellite image. That's been approaching across the Atlantic, bringing some pretty windy weather across the UK through the course of Tuesday. But of more concern to us is the next area of cloud developing there on the conveyor belt out in the Atlantic. Now, that's quite a rapidly deepening area of low pressure, Storm Ali, which is heading its way in through Tuesday night and on into Wednesday towards northwestern parts of the country. Now, it's going to be bringing some very windy weather. In fact, the Met Office have issued an amber warning across parts of Northern Ireland, central and southern Scotland and the northwest of England. Winds here could be in excess of 75 miles per hour, particularly around coasts and over hills too. A windy day really wherever you are through the course of Wednesday, and with trees in full leaf, the wind could be causing some significant disruption to travel, for instance, power cuts possible too. Now, we've still got a strong jet stream through Wednesday night and into Thursday, so that's going to be continuing to drive weather systems our way. But it won't be as windy. We haven't got as many isobars on the map on Thursday. Of more concern on Thursday is going to be the rainfall totals. So we see the next front on Thursday bringing some rain initially to the southwest of England and Wales. Could be a little bit further north or south, then heading in towards the northwest of England. 40 to 60 millimetres possible, even a bit more than that in a few places. Could be some localised flooding. Do keep tuned to your latest forecast.
Storm Ali is fast approaching. We named Storm Ali on Tuesday morning, and it's going to bring potentially damaging gusts of wind to parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland through Wednesday. We have amber weather warnings in force. Now, the satellite picture from Tuesday afternoon shows this rather innocuous looking lump of cloud way out in the Atlantic. That is the storm really starting to form. Overnight, Tuesday night, storm intensifying, a number of isobars coming out of it, and the winds really picking up, especially on its southern flank. So across Northern Ireland, central and southern Scotland, that is where we're expecting the strongest of the gusts of wind to be through Wednesday. 65 to 75 miles an hour, possibly in exposed parts of central Scotland. We could see those winds touching 80 miles an hour. Either side of it, a swathe of strong winds, 50 to 60 miles an hour, parts of northern England, North Wales, and across northern Scotland. These kind of winds could cause some disruption, particularly in this amber area, the potential for power cuts, damage to buildings, flying debris, and certainly some travel disruption expected. Check before you travel on Wednesday morning. Now, the storm itself out to the west of Ireland, but as I said, it's on its southern flank where the strongest winds will be, and ahead of it there'll be plenty of rain pushing in across Northern Ireland. A bleak morning rush hour here, heavy rain and those strong, potentially damaging gusts of wind, and then the strong winds work their way across southwest Scotland through central and southern Scotland, and still the likelihood of potentially damaging gusts of wind even into the afternoon here. So there's the storm system heading its way up towards the northwest. Elsewhere, with some sunshine around on Wednesday morning, some showers for time, of course, staying a bit in the southeast. But still very windy wherever you are, and a band of heavy rain working its way over northern England into the Midlands, fizzling out as it does so, and it pushes into the southwest of England. So there will be some sunshine, and temperatures will respond, getting into the high teens, low 20s once more, but it will feel cooler than that with the winds. The winds increasing over the northern Isles of Scotland for a time through Wednesday evening as that system finally starts to scoot away, leaving behind clearer skies and a pretty strong wind again, making for a mild night on Wednesday night. But if I just head out of the way, there is another blob of rain heading our way, and that's accompanied by further strong winds during Thursday will be moving its way in. We have a yellow warning out for the rain, which could cause a few issues during the course of Thursday across parts of Wales and northwest England. Stay up to date with rapidly developing weather situation over the next few days. The weather warnings are, as always, on the Met Office website or on our app. Storm Ali is on the way, affecting parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. An amber weather warning is in force for much of Wednesday. The storm system really developing out in the Atlantic. At the time this was taken, Tuesday afternoon, still several hundred miles away, but that storm is intensifying, and as we run through Tuesday night, the storm is also approaching. A number of isobars coming out of the storm, the strongest winds on its southern flank across Northern Ireland, first thing in the morning, and then across parts of Scotland. Parts of northwest England, North Wales could also see gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour. We have a yellow warning in force here and right across Scotland, and then this amber zone across Northern Ireland, central and southern Scotland, where the gusts of wind can reach 65 to 75 miles an hour. Ahead of it, well, it'll be a fairly breezy night for most, to say the least. There'll be a band of showers across England and Wales, and some very strong winds in the far northwest of Scotland for a time, but it's also going to be a warm night. The winds continue to come up from the south, so temperatures not falling away too much. First thing in the morning, Storm Ali will be knocking on the door of Northern Ireland. The strongest wind, as I said, on its southern flank. So through the morning rush hour, that's when Northern Ireland not only seeing strong damaging winds, but also some heavy rain as well, some miserable conditions on the roads. And then the strong winds transfer through rush hour into southwest Scotland, then more widely across central and southern Scotland. And even into the early afternoon, we could be seeing damaging gusts of wind. Through the central belts of Scotland and exposed areas, those gusts could touch up to 80 miles an hour. Now, those kind of winds throughout the morning, Northern Ireland and across central and southern Scotland could cause power disruption, could cause transport disruption. Certainly ferries are likely to be cancelled and may well even damage buildings, creating some flying debris. So just be aware, keep up to date with the very latest Met Office warnings, and check before you travel anywhere, especially Wednesday morning's rush hour. Elsewhere, Wednesday morning's rush hour will be windy, but we should see quite a bit of sunshine over England and Wales. A few showers across East Anglia and the southeast, and a band of heavy rain across northern England and North Wales. Very blustery conditions in this area here, as well as northern Scotland. So it's a blustery old day, but it is still going to be quite mild. Temperatures could again, in the sunshine, get over 20 degrees Celsius. Now, Storm Ali starts to clear away through the second half of Wednesday afternoon. Could get very windy over the Northern Isles for a time, and it stays pretty blustery. And as we go through the early hours of Thursday morning, another wodge of rain then starts to arrive, making for a soggy start to Thursday over parts of England and Wales. And then more rain pushes in the next weather system that comes in during Thursday. So the potential for further problems from rain on Thursday over parts of northwest England, north and west Wales, especially. Elsewhere, it won't be as windy further north. Sunshine, but there is more rain to come. So plenty going on with the weather over the next few days. Please, as I said, do keep up to date with the very latest Met Office weather warnings. You can do that on the Met Office website or on